And the spider left or right?
The idea behind these workshops comes from Tourism Education Futures Initiative, where a group of academics got together some 20 years ago and thought tourism education must be done in a different way. It can't be just for businesses, it can't be just done so that we continue robbing a planet that is already reeling. And what they said was we need to do tourism education as a values-based education. And multimodality is, of course, what we have around us. We don't learn just through verbal expressions. We don't learn just through words. We learn through all our senses.
So I'm very happy that we have Lorraine and Kate. So thank you so much for joining us. Lokran Sensei from Ritsumeikan Daigaku and Belinda Sensei from Queensland Daigaku and Fusina Sensei, thank you for coming. And we have our great friend Roxanne who's actually a professional guide. Inoue-kun is representing Tsukitoho Walking Club at Wakayama University. He helped me mapping out and then timing all these routes. So this is regarded as the birthplace of Waka. Wakaura was the ocean resort that they dreamed about because those people lived in the inland have never seen the ocean. So let's walk up. In May, they have a Waka Matsuri, and then they will bring down the shrine, and they will come down these stairs, and then they will walk all the way to the port. When you reach the top, I highly recommend you turn around. You can imagine those people who've never seen the ocean before, how moving it must have been to see this great view. Now we take photo and send it to SNS or send by email, but at that time, imagine there was no other way of describing or keeping the memory to your friends and families. How would you take this experience back and tell them how wonderful that was? Through words. That's how Waka was used. But also many of them describe the beauty of this landscape and seascape.
A forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku in Japanese is a practice of mindful immersion in a forest environment, engaging all senses to enhance well-being. Were introduced in Japan in the 1980s as a preventive health measure. Observing lights, listening to birds and the winds, touching tree bark, and inhaling the forest's natural aromas.
Azheke is one village in the honey rice terrace. It's located in Ailao Mountain in southern China. So many tourists to come to the destination. But the local farmer who created the tourist attractions have not benefited from it. The local government to invite our team to do a tourism planning. And in Azheke, most of them are left behind elder people and the children. Yeah, and so many the people don't get enough education and didn't speak Mandarin. And we cultivate the local talent like computer skills for the local people and the language. And in the last years, we gain UN tourism, best tourism villages. Because we truly witness the reality there, so we care about the economic power relations.
Thank you. Some of the villages I have observed, like Penglipuran, which is another best village in Indonesia. Heritage, but also very good example of community management.
And how the sun just comes in exactly at that.
Wakaura became an interesting part of a research that I'm doing called What is a Cinematographer at the intersection of landscape and activism. And then on this side of that river was all beautiful beach, and that green line of trees that you can see was the pine protection that was in place and a bank that was in place along the natural beach line. But as you can see, it's been landfilled, resumed and industrialised, unfortunately. Pictures in these books show the recreation that used to go on in this area, and people, people here of 60 remember this is the place they played when they were kids. There's ways to live with the ocean, to learn how to use the wood, learn how to use the bamboo, learn the skills that we had to survive in a zero carbon environment that was pre-Meiji.
To be naive is not the same as being hopeful. Hopeful is to create beautiful futures. So I think the amazing pictures that we have here are wonderful because they are capturing a time, and we need to do that too. The visualization
That's the hope, the image is the hope, because we know it worked. We've got to get real and hopeful and positive, because if we don't believe we can do it, we are lost. If we don't believe to be hopeful, we are lost. The dark tourism that we've been looking at, it's hopeful.
Balinese.
This talk today is kind of an experiment for us. And it stems from two different things. So one thing is surf tourism, surf class that I do at Wakayama University. And the other is my recent interest through poetry. And I wanted to expose students to the sea. I wanted to make a connection with the sea again. Poems can capture the emotion in a better way than I could explain, the surf tourism class.
I'm originally from Osaka. I'm not used to the sea. Learning about nature and not completely connected, but like being in the sea by learning I've learned so many things.
You like yourself? You walk. I immediately respond, yes. But the truth is more like I'm learning to. And I know I'm not alone. She writes, I feel so good about myself. I love being in the sea. I love my dark skin. I love the person I am when I'm surfing. I want to keep surfing and love myself more.
This was our surfing class. The students that come with us into the ocean take a similar risk. They're also vulnerable. They're also fragile. They're experiencing something new. This is a way of learning. This is an education. This is a porous pedagogy.
sound, the auditory element, presents a really rich opportunity to learn and explore and experience things in a whole different way.
We've had to experience like the natural environment earlier today, and at the temple there was, I think I heard some music recording, and now we get this other aspect. So heritage value in sound emerges where memory, practice, and environment intersect. It's something that resonates on an individual level and on a cultural level. And then another aspect that's important to this research is the phenomenology of place. So listening is a situated embodiment. We sense space through vibration and resonance. So as we're walking, we've been experiencing a lot of different sounds. And I invite you to listen not just for meaning, but resonance, like what stands out for you. Notice what calls your attention and why. So we're going to do a guided listening activity now. And I want to just guide your attention through the different sound layers. So you can start by noticing what are the closest sounds to you. And the more distant sounds could be the birds maybe, the waves, or the wind. So this map that we're creating, this reveals where non-human and human sounds can overlap or get entangled. If heritage is what we perceive, listening reminds us that some things worth keeping may not be visible. But they are still deeply resonant.
Just splendid. So the camera is on, it's filming you right now. Kumi, a small Hokkaido omiyage as a thank you for saying yes to this crazy idea.
Oh, thank you so much, minasan. Thank you so much for joining. It's just a wonderful day.
And Adam, as our second co-host, please, a small omiyage.
Thank you very
Also,
much.
thank you to the students. Johan and your students did an amazing logistics job and recording.
So the idea of TeToWaWo has constantly been, we want to spread the idea, we want to spread this pedagogy into new places. We want to have the critical tourism theories in different schools around Japan. So the fact that we then can ask good friends and colleagues to take up on being local hosts, it really makes this possible.